Yay! Chapter 6. It's chapter 6, baby. It's chapter 6. Alright. Aw, yeah. What's up? My name's Christian Brown. Today, we're going to be talking about The Magic of Thinking Big by David J. Schwartz. Chapter 6, You Are What You Think You Are. Today, we're going to be talking all about how this affects your job. How what you think affects how you perform on the job, affects whether you're going to get raises or not raises, or get promotions or not get promotions. And if you're a manager or an executive, how that affects how all of your subordinates act and influences your organization. Let's illustrate this with a beautiful little story about 3 bricklayers. Now, the first bricklayer, the man walked up to him and he says, "What are you doing, sir?" And he says, "Well, I'm laying bricks." And he goes up to the second bricklayer and he goes, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Well, I'm making $9.30 an hour." And then he goes up to the third bricklayer and he says, "And what are you doing, sir?" And he says, "Why, I'm building the world's greatest cathedral." Where do you think these guys are going to go in life? You can be sure that the first and second guy, they're not going far. They think of their job as truly just, well, the first guy, I just lay bricks. And the second guy, it's just how I make my money, right? $9.30 an hour, nothing special. But the third guy, he sees his job as he is laying bricks for the world's greatest cathedral. You know this guy's going to go far. We don't know what actually happens to these men in the future, but just imagining that, you know that the third guy, probably at some point in his life, he actually is building the world's greatest cathedral or designing it or doing something amazing. Now think about this the next time you're going in for an interview and you're trying to get a bigger and better job, or even just a different job. David had a friend who his job was to basically be a recruiter and find people for other jobs. And he found as he asked these potential recruits about their current job, the ones who talked about their current job as not good and they didn't like it and they didn't feel it was an important job, typically ended up being the exact same people who in their new job felt the same way. They didn't think it was important. They usually didn't end up being a very great employee. Whereas the people who came into the interview and they really thought their last job was great, right? They had a lot of responsibility, or they believed they had a lot of responsibility, and they thought it was important, and they thought what they were doing was valuable. Even if they said something like, "Yeah, I don't like this thing or this and that thing, so I want to switch jobs," just because they showed that they really believed in the value of their job originally, made it so that in the future they ended up being much more successful in their new jobs. So just like your appearance, how you think towards your job affects how you're going to perform and how other people are going to see you and how you're going to be perceived in the world as far as future promotions and future job opportunities. Let's jump into some concrete proof of this. David had another friend whose job was to look through all of their employees every year and decide basically who should get the raises and the bonuses and promotions and who really shouldn't. And he'd go through and he'd do an audit of about 800 employees every year. And it typically took about 6 months of his entire 12 months of job for the year was to just look at all these employees. And he found that there were 2 groups of employees. There was Group A and Group B. Group B, he describes just like this. The persons in Group B talk mainly about security, company retirement plans, sick leave policy, extra time off, what we're doing to improve the insurance program, and if they'll be asked to work overtime next March as they were last March. They also talk a lot about disagreeable features of their job, things they don't like in their fellow workers, and so on. People in Group B, and they include close to 80% of all the non-production personnel, view their jobs as a sort of necessary evil. And then he talks about Group A. And Group A is essentially the opposite. They see their job through different lenses. They're concerned about their future and they want concrete suggestions on what they can do to make faster progress. He doesn't expect us to give him anything except a chance. The Group A people think on a broader scale. They make suggestions for improving the business. They regard these interviews as constructive. Whereas the Group B people typically just feel like these interviews are sort of like a brainwashing affair. And then what he found out after this, as he analyzed all these people every year, that invariably almost every single raise and almost every single promotion went to a Group A person. This is concrete evidence that you are what you think you are. If you're constantly thinking about how you can skate by and how you can get security and just simply make it through to the next year and not have to, improve your work or do better or any of that stuff, then that's exactly what you are, right? You'll think weakly, you'll think small, and you'll never get anything big. But if you're that person who's constantly trying to improve and you go into interviews and go, how can I do better? What have I done that was good this year? And what have I done that was bad? And you're constantly showing up and being a positive influence on everyone around you and trying to make things better, then you're going to get those promotions and those raises, right? So you are what you think you are. If you're constantly thinking about how you can do better, you're going to figure out ways to do better and you're going to become better. You are what you think you are. Next time there's a promotion up for grabs, think about these scenarios and think about who's going to get that promotion. Whether you're the person who gets to do the promoting or whether you're that person that's hoping you can get a promotion. First one, he talks about a secretary who, when the executive's out of the office, spends her time reading magazines versus the secretary who uses their time to do the many little things that help the executive to accomplish more when he returns. Who's going to get the raise? Or the employee who says, oh, well, I can always get another job. If they don't like the way I'll do my work, then I'll just quit. Versus the employee who views criticism constructively and sincerely tries to do higher quality work. Who's going to get the raise? Or the salesman who tells a customer, oh, I just do what they tell me to do. They said come out and see if you need anything. Versus the salesperson who goes, Mr. Brown, I'm here to help you. How can I help you today? Or finally, the foreman, right, who says to an employee, to tell you the truth, I don't like my job much, right? Those guys up top, they give me a pain in the neck. I don't know what they're talking about half the time. It's terrible. Versus the supervisor who says, you've got to expect some unpleasantness from any job, but let me assure you, the men in the front office, they're on the ball. They'll do right by us. They know what they're doing. You can tell in all these examples, you know who's going to get the raise. It's the guy who thinks good on his job, thinks good on his superiors. He's constantly putting positive out there, and so he gets positive back. One of David's friends had a brilliant way to figure out if an employee was going to be great for his company or not. And he learned to hire fast and fire fast. So he'd hire them, and the first job he'd give anyone, whether they were an executive or a secretary, is they had to be a mailboy for the first couple weeks. And he explained this to them. He even explained it to people as they were being hired. Like, yes, you're going to get this executive position or whatever you're going to be, but you've got to be a mailboy first. And here's the reason why. If you're a mailboy, you'll get to see all around the office and see all the important things that get done around here, so you can really acquaint yourself with the office and the people in it and what's important and all that sort of stuff. Invariably, some of the recruits would come in and they'd go around and they would be excellent, right? They'd talk to everybody, learn as much as they can about each of the different departments, make connections, constantly, be bringing the mail and being like, oh, looks like you have important mail today, sir, here. And just taking full responsibility in their job and doing it as best they can, even though it was the lowest job on the totem pole. And then he found there was another group of people, they'd come in, they'd start this job, and they might even, specifically, he had one example where this guy was getting hired for a very executive position, but within the first week, he just couldn't handle it. He was just sort of like, this is beneath me, blah, blah, blah. And every day he complained and got mad, was like, why do I have to do this? I shouldn't have to do this. Like, what the heck? Come on, I'm better than this. And they'd always fire that guy. The reason for this was no matter what job you're doing, you should think it's important. You should think it's valuable. You should put your heart and soul into it. Because if you're going to put your heart and soul into any job, whether it be being a mailboy or an executive, it shows how you're most likely to act in any job or any profession. And so this way, they manage to weed out all the bad recruits every time and only get excellent people that always valued their jobs in their company. Pretty amazing idea, right? Now, I've already said this multiple times, but David says this is so important that before you go on in the book, you got to read this 5 times. So I'm just going to read it straight out and just let it permeate you, let it penetrate you, and just think about this. David says, person who thinks his job is important receives mental signals on how to do his job better. And a better job means more promotions, more money, more prestige, more happiness. Think about that. A person who thinks his job is important receives mental signals on how to do his job better. That's like anything you do in life. If you think it's important, you think it has value, you really focus on it, and you believe what you're doing is important, you're going to receive the mental signals that make you better, no matter what you do. Super crucial. If you get anything out of this video today, take that, use it in all areas of your life. It's so important. Now, if you're an executive, you're going to think this next part's super important, right? Notice how kids learn to imitate their parents, right? Kids, as they get older and they finally get to that point where they can walk and do different things, they end up imitating their parents very well, on key. And think about your employees. They do the same thing. Imitation is a very human thing, right? Mirroring others is a very successful way to learn to interact with others. And so most employees and most organizations tend to mirror the executives and their superiors to some extent. So think about this next time you're managing a team or you're an executive. If you come in late to your job, then expect your employees to start coming in late. If you don't think your job's very important and you don't like it and it's just a means to an end, whether you're making a lot of money or not, that's going to rub off on all your employees. Even if you don't say it, even if you put up the facade that you think it's important. Everybody always sees through it in the end, and they're all going to start sort of adopting what you do, your mannerisms and how you think about your job. But if you think about your job as it being important and valuable, and yes, this is awesome, I'm glad to be here every day, I'm so happy to be talking to all of you guys, that's going to permeate through to your subordinates as well, and they're going to think their job's important, and they're really going to come and be on their A game every day if you're on your A game every day. So make sure that whatever you're doing, it's something that you'd want your subordinates to be doing as well. And if you're not doing that, then you've got to change what you're doing. Last but not least, we got one of my favorite things to talk about, which is enthusiasm. And I don't have a lot to say about this, but what I do have to say is that enthusiasm can permeate everything that you do in your life. And if you develop enthusiasm for what you do, you're going to have so much more fun. You're going to be so much more positive. Everyone around you is going to develop it as well. And if you're a manager, all your employees are just going to be, stoked every day. I don't know if you've seen this, but you should probably check it out on YouTube sometime, where there's this big concert going on and everybody's sitting on the grass. And this one guy just gets up and he's dancing and he's just dancing all over and he's just dancing all by himself. And he's doing it for a couple minutes and everybody keeps kind of talking about it like, oh, what, that dude's like crazy. What the heck's he doing? Whatever. And nobody's doing it. And then finally one other person goes up and starts dancing with him. And it's like, yeah, he's got a partner. And then as soon as that guy's got a partner, boom, more and more and more people keep coming up. And then suddenly there's dozens. And then boom, there's like hundreds of people. And then like 1,000+ people are all dancing with this guy, going crazy, having such a good time. This is how enthusiasm works. Think about this like wherever you go in life. Be that person who is doing the fun thing, who's enthusiastic, who's pumped about it, because everybody else is going to get just like you are. And yeah, it might be scary a bit. You might have to do it for a few more minutes or longer than you want to until other people join in. But if you do it, everybody wants to be doing the fun thing, and eventually they're totally going to join you. So always have that enthusiasm. Always think enthusiastically. It'll pay dividends. It'll make you have a lot more fun at your job and everywhere and wherever you're doing. Be enthusiastic. Enthusiasm is awesome. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I super appreciate it. If you want to subscribe, like, comment, share, any of that stuff, I would appreciate it so much. Thanks again. And as always, whatever you're going to do, make it happen now.